Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin, and as we enter the weekend, preparing to enter the weekend, the open sore of El-Zakzaky remains. If we weren't thinking of it as an open sore before, as you would have heard from the news now, the members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, the Shiites, have brought their protest to Lagos. Yesterday, there were reports of a peaceful protest in Lagos, even as there was a continuing one in Abuja. We'll talk about it and what can we do? Why is this situation the way it is going? Hopefully, it won't degenerate. But quickly to introduce my guest this morning, Dr. Amadili Boyo, Medical Director, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much. Public Affairs Analyst, even though as a medical doctor, we're not talking medical matters today, Abi, even though our caption, I think, is the El-Zakzaky open sore. It's just a pun. It's coincidental. Thank you very much, Dr. Boyo, for coming on.
Thank you.
And as it was, in Nigeria, back in the day, if you weren't a doctor, you'd be a lawyer. That's the way it is. So we got a lawyer. We sort of Evans Ofeli, good morning. Thank you very much for coming on. Mr. Ofeli is a lawyer and political affairs analyst. And so, this matter, before we even go, let's just sort of set the scene for our conversation. They protested, not exactly simultaneously, but they were protesting in Abuja and they were protesting in Lagos. Let's start with a clip of the Abuja protest.
Another peaceful protest turns violent. The police fired tear gas and warning shots in a crackdown on members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria who are on the street in the metropolis of Abuja demanding the release of their leader, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. In another part of town, 38 members of the movement arrested on Tuesday were being arraigned before the FCT Magistrate Court simultaneously. At this court, a batch of 10 denied the allegations read to them from the first information report. The 9 allegations include criminal conspiracy, mischief, and unlawful assembly. The defense counsel moved for bail on the grounds that the suspects were mostly minors. The magistrate, after hearing the arguments, ordered that the 10 suspects, except one, be kept in an appropriate facility other than a cell or prison. He adjourned the case to the 18th of this month for trial.
National security far override any personal interest. So for that reason, we pray to the Honorable Court to keep them in custody so that these boys, particularly the minors, will not continue to be used to unleash mayhem in the name of protest.
This isn't the first time that the Nigeria police will be prosecuting members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, but this time the police prosecutors believe that they have their acts right. The 28 other suspects arraigned in 2 other magistrate courts were fortunate. They were granted bail. Sifon Asian, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, then, so that's the first part of the story. And I suppose the contention now, you saw the placards, Free Zakzaky, and you've heard the lawyer there saying that their perspective was that national security overrides everything. But we do have a court system, and bail had been secured for the leader of the Islamic movement. I believe that Femi Falana SAN back in 2017, if I'm correct, at the Kaduna Federal High Court, had secured bail for this guy. But as the lawyer was explaining, there are reasons. And as far as the IMN people, Islamic Movement of Nigeria, are concerned, that's constituted authority right there. Our man has been freed. Why won't you let us? The matter was brought closer to home for those of us in the southwest of the country, where we happen to be broadcasting from. Lagos, there was what was referred to as a peaceful protest yesterday. Here's a clip of that.
Wait. Police started shooting on them this morning, throwing tear gas too on them. They start running header to header and running away and arresting some of them this morning.
To our leaders' seriously deteriorating health. And then as we came out in mass, all of a sudden the police started tear gassing the protesters and then even shooting live ammunition.
There was a slight mix-up, I believe, there. I'm awaiting. That was actually Abuja, because there was no firing as far as we know. So let's try again. The protest in Lagos.
We are leaders. Freedom for El-Zakzaky.
Freedom for El-Zakzaky.
Freedom.
Members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria in their thousands here in Lagos protesting peacefully. And what they are saying is that their spiritual leader, the person of Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, should be released. This is less than 72 hours that they had a protest in Abuja in front of the office of the National Assembly. And they are saying that their spiritual leader must be released. This is a peaceful protest here in Ikeja. They started all the way from Maryland down to Ikeja GRA, and their chants, their body language remains the same, that their spiritual leader must be released.
Freedom for El-Zakzaky. Freedom for El-Zakky. Freedom for El-Zakky.
Okay, so there you are. Sorry again about the wrong film that was put out there. That was actually of Abuja. So from the very first, ignore the second, if you will, mentally, and then this one now was our man Ola Awakon there, walking with them and telling us what was going on. Okay, let me swing to the lawyer first. That they are protesting free our man, that they're protesting free our man, it's like they're within their rights, ordinarily speaking. Yes, the lawyer has come to moderate that statement, the lawyer we saw on film in the Abuja story, but they're within their rights because a federal court has indeed granted bail, right?
Yes, the court has granted bail to him. And then what the federal government...
This goes back to about 2017.
Yes, years back. And then what the federal government is doing now is what can be referred to as extrajudicial detention, because the court have asked them to free him. Okay, he has gone through a process, and then he has been asked to be freed. But then he's been held back.
Freed of the charges?
No,
not
released,
necessarily so.
Released.
Custody.
Released from custody.
Okay.
Released from custody,
but
not free from charges.
Okay.
Released from custody.
Yes.
And then the court has also made orders that the federal government rebuilt their house that was destroyed, and then 25 million each be paid to both the husband and the wife, because actually both parties, the couples that are in detention as we speak.
Okay.
You understand? And then these remedies were advanced by the court for the purpose of ameliorating the hardship that occurred during the process of arrest and then distraction. But right now, I think that the federal government needs to listen to the people. Because, you see, we are dealing with an ideological issue. You see these people protesting. You see how they are even taking children along, infants, and then
in fact, look at all those
minors.
Guys in the Abuja, in the first Abuja film.
Yes.
Look at all those kids.
Yeah. Now these are people. These are people who have been indoctrinated. Now these are people who are pursuing an ideology that seems to be the right path. Okay. So what government ought to do is to not to even look at what is going on in terms of the protests, but to look at the institution of the judiciary and the court that has made an order, okay? Because this is a religious matter, and then we know how people take religion. There are issues of extremism, there are issues of thoughtlessness, there are issues of unidirectional thinking. Religion does not really allow you to expand the scope of your intellectual horizon. It gives you a pattern, and then sometimes it tends to tell you that every other pattern seems not to be the right way. So if we have that kind of idea, the government must apply what we call soft power. I know that government have the power of coercion. They have the power to use, but government must also be diplomatic in issues like this, because we've had instances where government, the police extrajudicially executed someone at some point, and then what we have in our hands today now is insurgency. We have to budget money repeatedly to fight this. So I think government should, in the instance of the court have said, release him. You can release someone, but you can also restrict his movement. You can put him perhaps under house arrest. So there are other method, other variables for which you can still address the same issue and have the same result. But the government seems not to be listening to all that. And that is where the problem is.
Dr. Boyo, the situation that we have on our hands here, you can see that from the perspective of the protesters, we are the lawful ones. We are going about our lawful business. In fact, we are now the injured ones. Government, however, many people will say, have their reasons, for keeping it. And it's not just the El-Zakzaky. There are other people that the court has ordered be released that have not been released. Again, this whole overarching national security idea. Maybe this explains, maybe government finds itself in a quandary. And maybe this explains what many of us would see as the kid glove approach of government in responding to this. Because I think it is well known that government has the wherewithal to wipe out what people might consider an irritant and nonsense in 24 hours flat. There's no doubt that the power to do that, the coercive power, exists. But government is not wielding it. Do you think government is in a quandary, doesn't quite know how to proceed, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea of security and obeying the rule of law?
Yes, thank you very much. In the first place, you must realize that this is a movement. It's not just El-Zakzaky is a leader of 50 million people, they claim. And it started in
where are those 50 million people?
Oh, yes, that's what he claims.
It's
a sheer movement.
Yes.
It started in 1979.
Unless he's considering people outside Nigeria.
All right. After the Iranian theocracy was overrun by the Shia movement of Khomeini. And then by that time, El-Zakzaky was at ABU, and he had started raising up a group of people in support of Shia teachings. In the Islamic movement in Nigeria, you have the Sunni and the Shia. The Shiites have Iran behind them, whereas the Sunni have Saudi Arabia behind them. And the majority of Nigerian Muslims are Sunni. So the problem with El-Zakzaky goes beyond just ordinary what the eyes can see. The federal government must have some information that we don't have, some security implications. People that live in Kaduna had complaints about the threat to life and property of his followers. And if you remember, when he was arrested in 2015, it was an attempt, they blocked the road from Abuja to Jabi or something like that. Yeah. And then the convoy was coming from Abuja, carrying ammunition and missiles. They were transporting them from Abuja to Kaduna. When the convoy, which ordinarily maybe did not appear to have targeted the army, the roadblock was not targeted towards the army. It was like the usual way of just blocking
calling
the road.
Attention to themselves.
And then the army got there and asked them to move the roadblock. They refused. Soldiers came down, tried to remove the roadblock, and they descended on the soldiers. And there was an attempt, as claimed by the army, of these the followers trying to even remove some of the missiles from the truck. And they were shot at, and some died. And from there were other incidences around Kaduna where it was alleged that the followers even blocked the road, and the governor's convoy was also affected. So there's so many other things.
So their strategy seems to be wanting to call attention to all of this.
Yes.
Yes. Just not letting up. And here we are talking about their rights.
Yeah, then he was arrested. The army now went to his compound because he was invincible, as it were. Because the state government at that time
didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, they had respected him. They were afraid of him. It's like, not directly related, but forgive me if I mention Kalakuta. in those days,
Yeah.
where it became a republic, as it were, and Obasanjo felt we must deal with these people. So the state government did not want to touch it. It was the sacred cow in Kaduna. So it took the might of the military to go in, and they picked him up in 2015 with his family and some of the others and placed him in detention. When they applied for bail, from what the news was saying, they said they wanted bail on health grounds. Bail on health grounds, and it was rejected because it didn't have enough reasons, so to speak, to be granted bail on health grounds. So the judge said. At the end of the day, the Minister of Information then, Lai Mohammed, now said El-Zakzaky was in federal government's protective custody.
Yeah.
That's how it was described. That he wasn't in prison, was in protective custody for his own safety. So people are saying that, how can you determine somebody else's safety? Bring him and let him tell us he wants to be kept by the government. That's what they're running. That's why you call it an open sore. It's like, okay, can't we just take the matter up and let El-Zakzaky be brought to, let him have his day in the court, as the lawyers will say, and let him be found guilty of maybe disturbance or disturbance of the peace or
and that's
treason or whatever it is.
And that's what government, for its own reasons, is not able to do. And thank you, Ahmed Lee, for that beautiful bird's eye view summarizing the whole matter of the Sunnis and the Shias and Saudi Arabia and Iran, and most Nigerians being Sunni Muslims and they being a minority. And so there's a sense in which they probably might be feeling a bit picked on. They might be feeling a bit picked on. I don't know, can't get into their minds. But we see what's going on, and I don't know.
Sorry, sir. I won't say they feel a bit picked on because they were the aggressors at first. It's an attempt, like what is said in religion, this is an attempt to draw attention to themselves. And to draw attention to the fact, don't forget, there's a federal government perception that Iran, which has been labeled by the United States as a principal sponsor of terrorism all around the world, may have channeled money to the cause of both the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, Al-Qaeda in West Africa and other things. And then that maybe these people too are being sponsored by Iran because the Iranians are strongly behind the Shia movement.
Now, if only, and I hear you, thank you very much. But look, Evans, if only the court had seen all of this when Femi Falana was making his case and had declined to grant bail, then we would have been hunky-dory. But whatever the arguments were, the court said the guy should be granted bail. Our government now says, it's like government is saying, I don't agree.
No, the court acted based on the status of the person involved, the suspect, or the defendant in the case, who is a Nigerian, who also have the fundamental rights.
Yes.
Just like we all share fundamental rights. Okay.
Because these were the arguments that would have been presented to the court.
Yes, and then the court have also looked at the matter in question, and in the court's wisdom, the court feel that he should be granted bail because it's a bailable offense. The offense is said to have committed. So the court wouldn't have discarded the law just because there are some information which are unverifiable that there is an international movement sponsoring, possibly must have given funds and all the issues they're talking about. The court will not hinge its decision on such kind of speculation. The court will act based on the evidence before it and then decide to go the way every other person who is involved in such situation, the way they call that decided. But the most important thing here is that we must note that we are dealing with an ideology. Whether you keep him, there's a way you will keep him, okay? And you keep him more than necessary. The fear you initially have that if you have released him, it's going to cause some kind of crisis. That fear or that incident may still befall us. You understand? It may still, the fear that if it's released, there's some alliances all over the world that are channeling to make sure that they disrupt the issue. That particular fear is as grievous as the fear of keeping him too long or possibly anything happens, and then the followers will begin to renew their spiritual agitation and then begin to place bigger demands. If you look at it, Before previous protests, it has been procession. They are gradually becoming violent. Okay, this is not to say the state should be scared of the movement. That is unacceptable. But the state must apply wisdom, looking at the issue, looking at the court, looking at the international community. Because if you have a government that don't obey court order, it has a way also to play on your political economy. It has a way to play on the psyche of investors. Okay, it also has a way to play on the issue of, and when you talk about the issue of national security, which the president have always alluded to, the national security supersedes every kind of the rule of law and order. But I think that, you see, national security is subject to the rule of law. Okay, so if an institution, if the court, with its powers and its sacred function, have made an order, that is the rule of law. Okay, and that rule of law should be subjected to the issue in question.
Okay,
you understand?
Where the problem is now, I would be guessing, is the fact that this whole matter called national security of any country, you know, government is not really willing to explain it all to you. They're not willing to, you know, let you know what national security entails. You and I know that in the interest of national security, governments are known to step outside the law, but then they do it clandestinely. That's the whole spy network thing. Let's face it, spies go around breaking the laws of different countries secretly.
Yes.
You know, because there just is no argument for them to do what they need to do legally. And so it's almost like one of those conundrums that we have here on our hands here. Government knows what it knows. It's probably not at liberty to let us know what it knows. And meanwhile, we are dealing with the little bit that we can see, and we're grabbing hold of, but the court said so. And I can just imagine that the people of government are just looking like this. Here we go again. Here we go again.
It does not erase the fact that the court said so.
It doesn't erase the fact, but you can see
if they have reasons to keep him, such reasons should not override the pronouncement of a court order.
Yes. And this is something that can't be done in secret, unfortunately.
Yeah, because if he overrides the pronouncement of a court order, it means that unlike you have shut down the judiciary entirely. It's not respected. And if it's not respected, the same fear you have, okay, the same fear the same thing you are trying to protect, you are still bringing it upon yourself because you are deluding the government.
Maybe I should come in here.
Sure.
The courts themselves have not helped matters because there was a time, let's face it, these people killed soldiers.
Yes.
They killed soldiers. They became a threat to public order. There was actual murder.
They shoot at police officers?
Yes, they shot at police officers. There was actual murder involved in these cases. And the courts, at a stage, there was a need for him to be released, and the court said the bail was not proper. They didn't have enough justification to release him on bail for medical grounds. If you listen to one of the things they said at the Abuja, they said, oh, if the president will go abroad for medical treatment, El-Zakzaky should be allowed to go abroad for medical treatment. They couldn't get that from the court. So while I agree with the lawyer that the government has been negligent of court orders, I agree with that. But at the end of the day, and that's why it's an open sore. When Maitosini became a problem in the 80s, what did they do? They set up a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. You can bring up this matter again and investigate the whole concept of the Islamic movement of Nigeria and ban it if you feel it's against the Constitution. You can bring it up. It can be brought up because not only Maitasini, there was another situation in Kano that led to a riot in those days, where another sect was involved, and it led to killings of hundreds of people. And the Commission of Inquiry found these people to be rebellious and against living outside the tenets of the Constitution. Now, if you listen to the tenets of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, the fact is that they want an Islamic republic, and that it cannot be in a country that is not an Islamic republic. All these things they are doing about getting El-Zakzaky out of prison, yes, I sympathize with them. Like you said, the government is wrong to have kept somebody under confinement for so long. So the American government was wrong to have killed Osama bin Laden without a judicial process. Because Osama bin Laden was picked in his house and killed. So at the end of the day, the drive of the Islamic movement of Nigeria is that they want the country ruled by Islamic laws.
Yes.
Why I don't agree with the government in keeping somebody in custody without trial, and even after the judge, the courts have declared that he should be released on bail, I believe the government should obey that. But it has become an open sore because of the government dealing with the situation of Islamic movement of Nigeria and dealing with El-Zakzaky himself. They are just constantly following up the matter of dealing with these protests. The root of the matter is yet to be solved.
Exactly. And why the root of the matter, my guess again, is doing a lot of guessing this morning, is simply because of this whole cloak of security. There must be a veil necessarily when we're talking national security. And behind this veil, God knows all the kind of things that go on. That's why there's a veil, because no self-respecting government is going to be seen to be breaking laws left, right, and center. But they know government's primary responsibility is the provision of security and all of that. And they know that sometimes the courts get in the way. Of course, this is lawyers are going to be tearing their hair out, hearing this. What are you talking about? But government knows that the law, democracy, rule of law sometimes gets in the way of doing the right thing because it's become a game of chess.
Yeah. When you say government knows, government have other alternatives to still arrest the issue.
Yes. Okay.
Government have the powers. They have alternatives. If the court has made an order, what the government ought to do is obey the order first. Not just because of that case.
Okay.
But because of a lot of issues, because of other institutions and all that, obey the order. Then take step B, curtail the issue with the variable alternatives you have. You can put him on the outside. You can restrict his movement. You can.
But that's what the said they have done now.
You have. He's still in detention.
No, he's still in detention.
Protecting the DSS protecting the
Mohammed is now under protective house arrest.
He has been released.
He said he has access to his wife, his children. They're all together in the house.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate. I'm just trying to say what the government has said is that, and that doesn't mean I'm justifying it, is that not like what you said. He has been released from prison custody. He has been released from detention.
Yes.
But he's in a home in Abuja, well taken care of, eating well, eating fine.
Who chose that home?
That is it.
Who chose that home?
That is it.
So he's not been released. And I'm happy with what you said. When you said that. Look, the government. I was saying that this has turned into a game of chess. Now, there will be good chess players and not so good chess players. Yes. So if, continuing this chess analogy, if government has said, fine, the courts have done this, okay, we got to obey this, and then they do that, and then they do this again, whatever, because we've heard people come and say, look, there are options open to government. You could release a guy, so we are told, and effectively, he can't really go out of their peripheral vision. Yeah. They keep him within the peripheral vision if that is what they want to do. But this matter of looking away, it's emboldening these guys. They're now showing up all over the place. Yes. They were in Abuja the other day. Now an arm of them is in Lagos. And more and more attention is being called.
And that's intelligent failure. If they left Abuja and they were coming to Lagos, if they were being closely followed, they would have known that they were coming to Lagos before they got here. And it would have been nipped in the bud.
Oh, you're assuming that they went in Lagos, that they don't have members here in Lagos. Who told you they need to travel? Let's continue this guesswork of ours.
I agree with you. In those days, when we had student union revolt, before the University of Lagos or University of Ibadan, government will know about it overnight.
Those ones are traveling by road. And so the government will know what's going on. Who told you, I'm just speculating now, that the IMN people don't have a Lagos cell?
No, they have a Lagos.
Okay, we've got to go on a break. We'll be right back. And of course, we'll open the phones at that time. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. We're looking at something of an open sore, which this has become, caught between government's perhaps specialist knowledge and the rule of law, quite frankly. The man El-Zakzaky has been released. government cannot see its way to actually fully releasing him. Yeah, as one of my guests this morning was saying that, yeah, he's being taken care of, even fed and all of that. Well, there still is this whole problem. So I don't know. It's become something of an open sore, and it's an ongoing conversation. Government seems to be looking the other way, but at least it is addressing the situation with kid gloves, and that might be government's concession to perhaps the concern of a lot of people that, look, government has the power to and the might to quell all of this, but it probably knows that's not in its best interest, because it must be seen as a law-abiding country, a democracy that is founded on rule of law. Besides, everybody is watching us. Never mind that those people that are watching us also have their own. They also have their own things that go on behind the veil. But this one is not too much of a behind the veil, in that the court has said, let this guy go. Why government is not taking that other option of we can obey the court, release him, keeping within our view.
Appeal against the court order.
Oh yeah, go ahead and
they can even appeal against the court
so
order.
it's a chess game that government is playing in its own way. I don't want to
But why
say
do you
it's
think
playing
children are involved? Why do you think most of the protesters are minors?
That is a problem. That
I
also
think that
is another
where-
problem
that is where-
internationally.
That is where government ought to come in.
Yes.
Government ought to come in to address this issue of recruiting children. Because this is what children are. So in the court.
You saw those kids in court.
These are minors that are not supposed to be involved in issues like
so-
that. And that is why the
should be in
magistrate in his wisdom
he said
remanded them to
another place.
homes
other than the prison
Other than
custody.
prisons.
My fear is that we should not handle this issue to a point where it might degenerate into armed conflict, because all over the world that is what even the UN trying to prevent all over the world. Issue of armed conflict is degenerating and making issues like that. And sometimes they start very small, these groups and all that. If you look at the Hamas, look at the Al-Qaeda, look at all of them, all these groups all over the world are creating problems. They started very small somewhere. And agitation upon agitation, they begin to renew this spiritual ideology,
So we have
and then it becomes a problem.
We have a conundrum on our hands.
Yes.
We have a conundrum on our hands. Government is saying that it's acting on behalf of the integrity,
National security.
the national security and the integrity and territorial integrity of the land and all of that. And even if you want security integrity, but the people are saying, thank you for all that grammar. What did your court say? Did you not say you're a democracy? Did you not say you are depending on rule of law? Did the judge not pronounce? Why are you disobeying the courts? Reverend Dominic, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling.
Good morning, your guest this morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yori, let me express the fear of government to you. You may not understand it. I don't think it's far from this point. That in our society, in our nation called Nigeria, people appear and disappear. Do you remember the pension man who will say that he mismanaged a lot of billions of naira? He appeared in Abuja in office and disappeared overnight. So if you leave this man to go to his house, if there's tendency he may appear and disappear, we cannot have eyes on him, and the trouble continue. And that's the issue. I want to ask the lawyer in the studio, why is it difficult in our nation for we to try a man, especially a big man, and start the trial, finish it within 1 or 2 years, either prison him or let him go? In other clients, this matter could have been settled. You remember that brother Henry Oka. When South African government got him, they don't detain him indefinitely. They went through court processes. The man saw that there was a judicial process. He was prisoned. He appealed, and they refused to appeal. So the thing goes on. Why do you hold a man incommunicado? A court has given bail, you reject it. You're not hasting his trial. Do you want him to stay there and die, and we have the Yusuf hand in our hands? Why is it that we don't learn in our nations?
Okay. Thank you for that point, Dominic. Appreciate that point. Thank you.
Why is that we don't learn?
He has made a very powerful point here, and I think it's very important that government must, and then the court system must be able to expedite trials of this nature, high-profile cases of this nature that hits on the fundamentals of the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian state, or issues of security, because we've not been having that. And if you go to other climes where they go about this kind of trial, it should have been something that should have been done even within 6 months or at most 8 months, so that we can now know the position, and then you have drastic. But in as much as we don't have that kind of process here, in this particular case, we've had resolution. The court have made resolution. The court have made orders. The court have even asked that they pay and all that. The court have done that. So I don't think that's where we are. Government should obey that court order.
But you
and
heard,
obey the court
what
order. They do the needful. That they will disappear and appear.
Well, Dominic said that.
And that is his submission. The fact that he may disappear or appear does not mean the court orders should be disobeyed. Court orders must be respected first, because there are variables. It cannot disappear. Now, there are variables that you can use to get.
Now, you see, what Evans is saying, I imagine government will, let's just think of government let's personalize government for a moment, for a nanosecond. I imagine government is not going to disagree with what he's saying, but it's still saying that it's still not a satisfactory situation. So whereas I'm not able to openly say, no, there is nothing in what you are saying, they're not going to say that. They just, continue the other way.
But that's the power of government. That's the power of government. It's like when you have a case.
Yomi in Ife, good morning. Good morning, Yomi in Ife.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
I'm also contribute to the program.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually saw the protest of what is going on. But you know what? There is something I want to say very important. Yeah. Nigerian government are fond of grabbing issues. And I want to say this part in line of what the other caller said. This issue has been on for 2 years ago now. And I'm telling you, we are not finding any solution to it. The point is, Nigeria is a country that is facing a terrorist issue now. And we must not allow this issue to be swept under the carpet. What I want to say is that, in short, is that these people, especially the issue of this, the people we have been using as a campaign trail, and making those children and the minors we have been using, we should investigate them. Don't we have the investigative aspect in our police? As our police not developed to that extent? These are issues that we have to tackle, because if we just must move forward and we must move ahead this terrorist issue in our country, we must tackle it, because there is a way they recruit these people. And if this protest has gone to Lagos here, that we are both proud of the place that we can just walk freely. And this protest has been brought down to Lagos. There is something we must be fear of. So one thing I want to say is that we should meet this issue on the board immediately.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Yomi. Really appreciate your call. Hear what you're saying. It's been that's what people are saying. It's dragged on for too long.
2015.
Yes.
That's about 4 years now. And that's dragged on. Like what my colleague here said, it could have been nipped in the bud all along. But it's as if he made a point that if we had interrogated these minors and anybody associated with him, we could have also used it to find out what the whole aim is. Now, and I believe the police is doing that. Whether they're using it or not, we don't know. Yeah. Now, if children are involved, people are involved, I don't mean beating them to the point of interrogation. Find out from them. What do you stand to gain from this? Why are you in this? And then push it all along to find out. But we'll say this thing is so clear. It's an Islamic movement.
Sometimes the way we talk, it's like we're saying that the security apparatus is being inefficient, and I don't think so. I think they are aware of all these arguments and these points of view that we're putting across. Thoroughly, they are aware of it. They're on top of it all. But at the end of it, it's like all that workings, all the workings, if it were a mathematical problem, is going to lead to this answer. And we can't allow that answer. This is the whole problem. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, I pray that the lawyers and the judiciary does not plunge this country into another civil war. They keep on arguing rule of law. Are laws made for men or men made for laws? The lawyer there is saying that national security should be subjected to the rule of law. Where is the law going to operate where there is no security? Is the law going to rule fans? Okay, Yori, there is one fundamental issue in this matter that we have not addressed. This particular sect, their modus operandi is about thwarting the laws of the land. That has been the basis of the crisis they've been having. Anywhere they go, they believe that they are not subject to the laws of the land by saying no other person passes this road when we are there.
Exactly.
Are religious organizations permitted to do that? By blocking the chief of army staff from passing a public road, they are, by extension, blocking the president of this country from passing the public road. And upon attempting to arrest their leader to answer questions, they attacked the army. Are religious organizations meant to do that? Is that a way of defending? And then the lawyers who are saying rule of law, rule of law. For how long now has this man been in detention? For how long has the order been given? When they bring him to court, they will give 9 months adjournment. Is that done by the executive? Is that done by the president?
Okay,
Why
Mr.
is it that the case cannot be tried in good time and let the man face, justice? That is what should be addressed, not coming to the everyday rule of law, because it is their business where they get money.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. But you see, Mr. George himself knows. But apart from even that part that Mr. George said, lawyers just carry on about rule of law. They have to carry on about rule of law. I mean, it's the way it is.
And there was no 9 months adjournment in this case. The court has resolved in this case. The court has made its order. Okay, the court has determined the matter.
Which of the matters?
Well, the matter against him has been determined as regards his bail.
Yes, but the matter for which he was arrested has not been determined.
That is the charge.
Yeah, the charge has not
but
been
there was
determined.
no 9 months adjournment as is being referred to. Okay, so the question is that he is talking about the fact that lawyers talk about rule of law, rule of law. What are we supposed to talk about? Are we supposed to talk about the rules of anarchy? Are we supposed to encourage the state to begin to, because when people talk, at the end of the day, when the crisis starts, it's going to affect everyone.
Yeah.
It's going to affect everyone. We must continue to emphasize on the rule of law, whether he likes it or not, whether the government likes it or not. Government must obey the rule of law. That is the law.
But look at what, on the other hand, what this man is also
very
showing.
much like doctors continue to talk about sanitation, continue to talk about disinfecting, continue, it's what you guys do.
Yeah.
And it's for the benefit of the society.
Yeah, it's what you guys do. So I don't even have a problem with that.
What this guy is also saying.
I don't have a problem
what
with that.
What this guy is also saying is that the basic charge for which he was arrested,
that's substantive
matter, has not been dealt with.
I know.
Now, if that substantive matter has been dealt with within a few months, we've seen cases abroad where someone is arrested for terrorism within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they have been acquitted or he has been jailed.
Okay, one moment, guys. Mohammed is calling in from the Emir's Palace in Kano. Good morning, Mohammed.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to your gentlemen in the studio.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to make a little contribution.
Sure.
These people we are seeing, they are very, very, very extremely violent. And I can understand the concerns of government by not revealing the protective custody. Because if the government dares to allow these people know where this man is being kept, they will continuously march on that protective custody in court in their thousands, with or without court order. In fact, even if the court denied this man bail, these people will continue to insist In fact, they will even see the government influenced the judgment. They will not agree to anything. I worked in Zaria, in a company, electricity meter company in Zaria precisely for 15 years. If you see the hell these people give us in Zaria, if this man is coming,
yes,
we will have to park our cars. It will be like the president will pass. 15, 20 minutes before he comes out of his house, they'll block the whole road.
Okay.
Are we not Nigerians? We have the right to use the public roads, but they will block it. They make hell out of us.
Well, Mr. Mohammed, thank you very much for calling in, but as I was told, you're calling from the Emir's palace. I mean, is this an official view from the palace? Okay, he's gone. I want to thank you very much for that contribution. That contribution, came in from Mohammed, and it showed up some other aspect to the whole situation.
Yes, no one is supporting the issue of blocking the road, restricting people from the right of passage and all that. That's not.
But he was also telling us one of the downsides of, indeed, the rule of law, having a free passage. Now the man is released because of rule of law. He said that people will now begin to converge on that whole place, and that becomes another security issue.
We condemn that act because it is not legitimate. It's a wrongful act. It's negligence in law. Okay, you block the right of, everybody have a right of way. We have duty of care. You owe the other person duty of care and all that. We know all that, and we condemn it. But that if the court have made a pronouncement, that's the area I'm talking about. It has a ripple effect on other issues, not just this issue at hand. And that is exactly what I'm saying. But as regards their conduct, their level of brigandage and hooliganism, things like that, we do not support it. But then at the court will make ancillary orders to that, to the effect that they will be restricted. There will be injunctions, to carry out all those disturbances, civil disturbances.
Let us spend a few seconds, because with maybe a couple of minutes, we don't have all the time we'd like. Mr. Mohammed calling in from the Emir's palace in Kano, he gave one of the clear problems with things going the quote-unquote normal way. Don't forget, we said on this, we were speaking on this program about there's normalcy in front of the veil, and there's also normalcy behind the veil. And usually they are contradictory. That is the whole problem. Now, that call coming in from the palace of the Emir in Kano, it gave an insight that they're ultra-violent, that you go and satisfy all the, before the veil kind of conditions of democracy, rule of law, follow, obey the judge. Apparently, you might have a bigger problem on your hands, and you can't really explain it properly. So they're just using these kid gloves, and they're just looking away, and the public is understandably saying the government is not obeying the law. All the lawyers are saying all of that. For instance, Garba in Makurdi, good morning, sir. You want to make a comment as well, Garba?
Yes, Uncle Yori.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to your wonderful guest over there.
Thank you very much.
A fantastic job there. You see, Uncle Yori, I'm a Muslim.
Okay.
I know what Shia are all about. This is no issue of Sunni and Shia, as one of your guests said.
Okay.
It's the issue of the rule of law. I grown up in North, precisely close to the area. To be honest with you, those people, what they are doing, they are making hell out of any person living in North, not only in Zaria. I'm telling you, these people can tread the long road from Zaria, if you know Zaria, to Abuja. They didn't care. They didn't obey the rule of law. They believe in their leader. The ideology that they are giving them, like Nigerian government, is locking to them. To be honest with you. And don't mind all that. You know what they are doing? Government needs to act very fast. You know what they are doing? They will meet you, young man. Honestly. They will give you money. They will give you business. They will brainwash you. And I believe anybody from North will attest to that. That's what they are doing. If you are in poverty, they will go to you. They will give you money. They will give you work, they will give you business. Before, they say working in the government is a taboo. But when they understand, if they do not work in government, they will not get followers. They start enrolling themselves within the government, within school. They started in our villages, let me tell you, okay, what they are doing. They will come to the villages, public school. They will try and sponsor you to go to school, read NCE or any education qualification. They will get work for you. From there, they will start brainwashing the people that are in school by giving them incentives, telling them about the ideology. And let me tell you something, Okwori, and I believe that someone will call for not, he will tell you this. The vulnerable are people from villages that are ignorant. Most of them, they are from villages. They are not living in the cities. Whenever they are doing this possession, they mobilize vehicles from interior villages that there are no presence of government there. They went there, they brainwash them, give them stipend, carry them, mobilize them, come to the city, and commit all these violent protests.
Okay.
I'm against of the government detaining El-Zakzaky. It's against the rule of law. But to be honest, I'm urging federal government. So you ask Pat. I have my neighbor. He's in upset poverty in Katsina. Katsina State. You know what they did to you, Ogori? That man is married from one kid. He's in upset poverty. Someone in the market talked to him about their leader, one of their leaders in Zaria. He went and met him. They give him business. They give him work. So now let me get his wife, his mother, someone related. He all carry them to that. Whenever they are doing that procession, they will trade for as far from Puntua to Zaria, if you know the kilometers. To wait there in Geles where that man is staying. You have to stand there from day, from morning to night. And those people that are living in Gelesu, I pray someone will come from Gelesu that is residing in Gelesu. They see hell. When those people are doing their this, you cannot come out of your house. They will chase you and beat you. I'm telling you, Uncle Yori.
Thank you
Some
very
people
much.
keep in religion international. You know Nigeria. Anything that happens, they would like to bring religion attached to it.
That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Garba, for calling in. Interesting. In between that and the, quite frankly, pretty rare kind of a call that we got just before that, coming from within the palace of the Emir of Kano, and I'm sure nobody would have spoken anyhow coming from that palace. He would have been speaking on authority. And so these are giving us insights, you know, different views. Perspectives. So it's an interesting thing. Here we are talking about the rule of law, and we must continue to speak about the rule of law. Nobody can sweep that under the carpet. But we're getting some perspectives, perhaps, some perspectives on, hey, guys, how the Emir's palace in Kano actually said these guys are so violent, extremely violent, you can't even begin to understand it. So we are told. Okay. But very quickly, because we've run out of time. But
and that's what I've been trying to emphasize.
Yes.
And I want to still reiterate it, that the government is not right in disobeying the court orders. But at the end of the day, let the government speed up the trial of this man. And if he's found guilty, jail him. If he's not guilty, release him. That's what I'm after.
Okay, release him. Remember what was said from within the palace.
If he's not guilty,
remember the insight we got from within the palace.
If then you manage the situation. This situation now.
Let's say you release him. Let's say you release him.
What I mean, if the court asks him to be released,
yes,
do likewise. You can now find out if you have another charge against him. Take him to court for the particular charge and let the case not drag. Justice delayed is justice denied.
Did you hear the commentary that came from within the palace of the Emir of Kano?
Yes.
Did you hear that aspect?
Yes.
The danger of releasing him.
Yes, I agree with
without,
but that does not justify keeping somebody against the rule of law.
It doesn't.
Yes.
And that's the conundrum we're facing.
Or the open saw.
Evans?
Yeah, my position is that before government commences further, obey court order first.
Okay.
Court has declared, obey that. Then take the next step to get the matter determined.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans Veli, lawyer and political affairs analyst. Correspondent analyst. Thank you very much. And Dr. Amadili Boyo, medical doctor and public affairs analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for your perspectives. And thank you to all those who called in today, adding various perspectives to, this, as we have called it, an open saw. We'll see how it goes from here. That's our program. We want the saw to heal, one way or the other. We want it to dry up, scab, fall off, and then heal. God willing, we'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.